Today's video is about what's kind of been about the same thing for a while, and that's how to deal in troubling times, because we're in major transformational situation right now on a global scale, probably witnessing a changing world order kind of right in front of our eyes, and it has direct impacts on all of our lives. So it can be pretty overwhelming. And my intent in this talk is to just basically help you with some of the things that I've learned over the years, in all my years of study. I think a couple of, I started this personal development path. Officially, I'd say the kickoff date was 1995. Hopefully this will be interesting to you. I was about to go travel the world. That was my goal. I was moving into my Volkswagen van, which I had rebuilt the motor from the ground up, took two 1971 buses and combined them and made a camper that I was about to move into. So I was doing van life back in 1995. It was pretty rad. And I went up to this commune area. It's kind of a commune. It was a kids educational camp with like ropes course and stuff in Sonoma County called Ocean Song. I think the property's still there. I don't know what they do now, something different. And I was waiting tables in Bodega Bay. I had graduated Berkeley, and I was just kind of surviving, but I was gonna go travel the world. I'd saved some money, I'd socked away a bunch of cash. I was about to move into my van and just, go for the travel leg of my journey. And a funny thing happened when I was up on the mountain. I started hanging out with all these community people. And this is, I think, probably the initial inspiration for my book, Personal Ecosystem Design. It changed me. It changed me just being around all these people that were living in community, that were cooking meals together, that were really living a sort of a caring life close to nature. And I remember distinctly sitting up on the mountain, and you can kind of see the ocean from, a couple of 1,000 feet up or 1,000 feet up. I don't remember how. It's really beautiful zone up there. And I was living down kind of where the ocean was in the little town of Bodega Bay, and I was looking down on it from this mountain, sitting in my little camp chair next to my Volkswagen van, which I had just woke up and had my coffee. And it hit me like a lightning bolt that I wasn't who I thought I was. I kind of thought of myself as this nice guy who, was really considerate and compassionate and cared about others. And when I was sitting up on this hill and just kind of had this moment to reflect on my life and was truly surrounded by these compassionate and caring people, I realized that was all a lie. That I was actually kind of a dick. I was a dick. I was pretty self-centered. I did a lot of stuff for my own self-interest, and I didn't really care for the people around me. Not like I didn't care, but I was mean to people. And that really opened my eyes. It was the first time where, some people never have that awakening where they realize that who they think they are is not really who they're being in the world. So it's kind of like this image that I had of myself no longer squared with what I was doing in the world, because I had got some distance and really hung out in a different community. And that really laid the groundwork for me to become someone who started discovering who I was, started questioning the assumptions I had made about myself and about the world, but more importantly about myself. So I tell that story. I'm not really sure why I'm telling that story, but it really is an interesting thing to think about. Well, where are you right now? How are you assessing and evaluating your life? And do you need a new perspective? Do you need to step out of your current community and get into something different so you can get a just a totally different new perspective. And that really does come from like separating yourself from your current environment and putting yourself in a new environment with new people. That's really the critical thing. You have to have people that are going to evoke a different part of yourself that you're trying to cultivate. It wasn't really what I was planning on talking about this morning, but I think it's a really, I hope it's a helpful thing to hear as we're all in this really big transition. I was about to say crazy, but I think one of the things I think is a good practice is to not use the word crazy, or to be very, very cautious when you use it, because if you use the word crazy, you explain away things. You stop thinking. You stop actually critically analyzing what's in front of you. So you say like, oh, they're crazy, or it's crazy, period. And then you stop actually kind of looking for the reasons why. I'd like to talk, this all is revolving around how do we deal with crisis and change and difficulty? How do we keep moving? How do we get beyond our own personal resistance or hopelessness? I lost my train of thought. Well, I'll go back to the core principles. So basically, one of the core principles that's held me together inside of this resistance to, inside of this hopelessness that kind of arises sometimes, it's not this like grand vision for the future. It's more of a faith in, this is part of it. I have faith that the universe, Mother Nature, God, however you want to articulate it, rewards effort. That's kind of it. It just rewards effort. And so that, I would say, is kind of a spiritual thing. Oh, I need to stop here. I'm going to stop here. So when we're in the midst of these crises and big transitions and uncertainty, I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to convince you. If you're already convinced that the universe rewards effort, it's a big, big, important principle that if you ground your life in effort as opposed to results, you'll never be dissatisfied. You'll always be rewarded. And there's something, because it's really interesting. So the universe rewards effort. I mean, you want to be intelligent, there's not like, you don't want to not analyze and review what you're doing and try to make better course corrections, but the effort is the primary directive. But the thing that you let go of is any attachment to the results. And then that seems like, for a lot of people, that's like very difficult to do. And in a way, it's like you're always gunning for a result. Like, oh, I want to, pay off my debt, or I want to get a new house, or whatever it is that you're going for. But instead of focusing on the result, you just focus on the effort. It's kind of like the coaching to write a book, which I'm currently in the middle of, is I don't focus on producing a best-selling book. I mean, that's great, that's sort of there, but it's way in the background. What I'm focusing on is just putting in the effort as many days in a row as I can, over and over again. So along those lines, and that's, if you haven't read the War of Art, it's great for anything if you're trying to create anything in your life. Stephen Pressfield's approach is, he's so, I can just summarize it for you here real quick if you don't want to read the book. It's a very short book, though. It's kind of a good one to read. There's a universal force, and he calls it resistance. If you were a Christian, you'd probably call it the devil. But that resistance is always sort of nipping at you to pull you away from the thing that you're going to create that's outside of the direction, the direction that you're already on. It's kind of like we set a direction and we, by default, we keep going in that direction. And anything that deviates from that takes effort. And so resistance is always going to be there. So, you know, you're trying to make more money, you're trying to get a relationship, you're trying to get healthier, you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to deal with your diabetes, whatever it is, there's going to be resistance to making that change. So here's a couple of tricks. They're not really tricks, they're just sort of mind tweaks. Everything that I teach is a combination of subtle shifts in your belief structure and subtle shifts in your environment. So this is a belief structure shift, which should be, you should reinforce it in your environment by surrounding yourself with people that help support that, or letting people know that this is what you're doing. Here it is. It's really simple. I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again because it takes a while for it to embed. Number one, just do something. So this morning I didn't meditate, I didn't do yoga, and I didn't stretch. I didn't do my breath work. But I did, while I was making my coffee, I stretched out my hamstrings. So I didn't like sit down on the mat and do some big thing, but I stretched out my hamstrings. While I was walking by my office door, there's my pull-up bar, and I did like 3 pull-ups. And then when I was in the kitchen, I just dropped down into the ground and did, 5 push-ups. So I did something. And so that's the mantra, which I'm going to keep repeating over and over again, because it's so important that no matter where you are or what you're doing or what is in your head telling you that you can't do, there's always something that can be done. So something, the mantra is something's always better than nothing. Something's always better than nothing. Something's always better than nothing. So the minute you're thinking like, I shouldn't be eating this chocolate cake, well, cut a third of it off and give it to your friend, or stick it in a container in the fridge and then mow the other 2/3. That would be better than mowing the whole thing. And people get so down on themselves for their own expectations, myself included. You just got to keep dumping your expectations and keep putting yourself in the moment. It's kind of an Eckhart Tolle thing, put yourself in the moment, but instead of this kind of fantasy that most people have that you're just going to be present and like everything's going to be beautiful and peace and joy, it's just like what it looks like in the moment is doing something. You're just doing something in the moment. I was freaking out about, I don't want to say freaking out, but I was concerned about this morning about, the stock market crashing and tariffs going and inflation and how that's going to affect my bread and butter right now, which is my electrical contracting business. And, so it kind of put me in a mode where I want to stop. Some people get really active when stuff gets stressy. Like, whatever reason, I didn't get that gene. I wish I had it, but I kind of want to stick my head in the sand. So I have to trick myself to get back into action. So that's one of the ways I trick myself to get back into action, is I keep reminding myself something's better than nothing, something's better than nothing. So I sat down and I haven't written for a week. And I was, I've been using AI to research stuff and to create little blurbs and to help me with outlining. And I haven't done anything for a week. So I finally sat down. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna do something. And I, researched a bunch of stuff and tried to organize a bunch of stuff and tried to figure out what my technical glitch was. And, I didn't get very far, but I put in like an hour. I put in the effort, I did something. And so there's a sense of pride in me now. I'm like, okay, I'm proud that I did that. Cool. I don't have the result. That's the key thing. Lock your pride in the effort, not in the result. Always lock your pride in the effort. Like, you win the gold, so what? It's the effort that you put in every day that you should be proud of. I really have a problem with this idea that the ends justify the means. I think that's why so many people are angry right now, because it seems like no, it's very clear that a leader like Donald Trump, he really cares about the results first, and the means and whoever gets sort of trampled along the way, that's second. And I think there's got to be a balance. You do have to focus on results when you're trying to build something, but if you're going to be a good human being and have other human beings around you that are good, you need to. I don't want to say you need to. I think the way everyone should live is to try to make the world better for everyone and for the life energy on Earth. And so in order to do that, you have to focus both on results and how are you producing those results. It does matter how you produce results. It does matter who and what gets trampled along the way. Yeah, it so matters. Because when you don't give a shit about who gets trampled along the way, you create all kinds of problems in the future and all kinds of pain and unnecessary suffering. And there's always going to be pain and suffering in the world, no matter what course you take. But anyways, I feel like I don't know how helpful that was. But back on track, something's always better than nothing. I guess the point is that you don't put your pride in your results, you put your pride in your effort, and the pride sticks in the effort. And then if you do that and you're intelligent about it and you keep refining your process and putting forth your effort, then eventually, most likely the results are going to show up. So something is always better than nothing. And then the other thing, so here's the other thing, and this is like, I wish I could sort of just dump this into your brain, how important this little piece is. If you get this, if you get nothing else out of this talk, take away this one piece. When you're having the thought, I don't have enough time, it's not going to make a difference. Usually it's pretty quiet too. It's like, I just got to get ready for work or whatever all those little thoughts are. You just have to tell yourself, no, just start. Just start. Just do something. Just start. And that's the trick. It's a mental trick. So when you're telling yourself you don't have time, you're telling yourself it doesn't matter, you're telling yourself it's not enough, whatever those loops are, that each one has a different, you have your own particular flavor of that. So don't try to use the words that I used. Your mind comes up with its own words, and you'll see it'll be whatever the reason is that you're not going to do the thing that you say you're supposed to do. So for me, I'm not going to get up and meditate and do that. So I didn't win. I lost half of that battle, but I still came back and did a little bit of cleanup with my push-ups and sit-ups and stretches this morning. And then with the writing, I'm like, oh, I missed all week. Instead of giving up, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do something. So I did something, but I just started. Just start. So take away that. Here's the thing to take away, more clearly, more specifically. It's the thought that's the trigger, the thought that takes you away from it. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough energy. I gotta go to work right now. That's when you stop and you practice. You start developing this muscle of just starting something. Just start. And those, you gotta follow those cues. Those are like enlightenment moments. Like I woke up and, I'm not supposed to. Oh, that's when I have to do it. So, everyone has 2 minutes. I would say everyone has 5 minutes, but everyone has a minute or two. And I tell you what, a minute, if you did 1 minute over 30 days, every day, that's better than 30 minutes one day. So it's just that the more you just start on these little things, the more you start building, build neural pathways, you're building habits, you're building a structure of beliefs about world and your life. And you'll start to see that they start to ripple on top of each other and they start to open up this world in which you're actually starting to become, you're starting to drift into this other person that you're moving towards. You're always moving towards the future self of yourself. There's a little bonus section I want to talk about. So that was the complete thought. Something's always better than nothing. Just start, use that trigger of an idea that you don't have time, or it doesn't matter, whatever your flavor of getting yourself off the hook is, and make that your moment that you do. And then here's the other thing, make it tiny. It doesn't matter how small it is. If you're doing something and yesterday you did nothing, that's progress. You know what I mean? All you're looking for is either momentum or progress. That's all you're looking for. Like, okay, sustain momentum or progress ahead. Sustain momentum, progress ahead. Oh, I fell back. Okay, start. Just start. Always just start. I know I'm being repetitive, but it's your brain doesn't. You have to break that loop. There's a loop that's a trench that stops you from doing that thing that you know you need to do. Oh, it's going to be painful. Whatever that thing is. So one of the things that I've shared before is that, you know, I do when I do a cold shower, but it's not really a cold shower. It's just all I do is make sure that I have one of those nozzles that move around. I start on my hands because that's the easiest place for me to do. So I start small and easy. I put the cold water in one hand. I put cold water in one hand. And then, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I don't want any cold water, but I know I can handle it on my hand. And then once I got it on my hand, I know I can handle my other hand. And then once I got it on both hands, I know I can handle it on my feet. Once I got it on my feet, I know I can go up my legs a little bit. Once I got it, I know I can go my arms a little bit. And then I can the brain starts changing and like, oh, I can put it on my face. And then once I got my face, I can go back of my head. And some days that's where I stop. And other days when I'm really feeling on top of it, I'll do the whole front of the body and get that whole, you know, blast of like, but not every day. I'm doing something. Something's always better than nothing. You know, we get I'm angry about it. There's such this goddamn all or nothing culture where it's like, you gotta be like, your muscles gotta be, your biceps gotta be bigger than your head. And yeah. Like that is so not, 90% of us aren't going to go anywhere in that narrative. We're all gonna just get stopped somewhere, or turned around, or hurt ourselves, you know, try to jam ourselves into some sort of conception of what it means to be successful, a successful man or successful woman or whatever it is. Throw that all out the window. What it means to be successful is to show up every day in the best way that you can, and to keep progressing every day in the best way that you can in the direction that you think is right. Now, again, I am really only interested in teaching people who care about the planet, who care about ecology, who care about universal human well-being all across the world. And yeah, those things. So it's about you individually achieving your goals, but those are the kind of people that I hope watch this and move forward in your goals. Because frankly, if you're super selfish and you're just doing this for yourself, I mean, let me say that a different way. I'm selfish, you're selfish, we're all selfish. But if you don't at least have a cultural norm in your head that you're moving towards, in which all humans deserve the best chance to have a great life. All life on Earth should be enhanced and invigorated and enlivened, and the ecosystems of the Earth are something worth protecting and fighting for. If you don't have that as a ground of your cultural identity, well, then you're not, you don't really care about other people. I mean, you've adopted an ideology that will ultimately destroy everyone and everything. Like I'm segueing a little bit. I'm gonna segue a little bit more because I don't know. I think it's really, really important that people understand this. There is this narrative in Western thought, Western scientific, industrial, capital, business thought, that competition is king. You know, all you gotta do is just pay a little bit of attention to the history of life on Earth. And if you really look at the history of life on Earth and the abundance the natural wealth that is created by life itself, it's undeniable that 99% of that abundance comes from cooperation, and 1% of that abundance comes from competition. You know, I'm making up those numbers, but I'm sure somebody who's much smarter than I and has much more focus and dedication than I could put a mathematical formula to that and come up with something pretty close to that. Because if you just look at the sum total of the energy that's been produced and the abundance that's been produced, it's a cooperative endeavor. You know, ecosystems and forests and things all working together synergistically that creates that abundance. So it really is a 4,000 or 5,000 year old idea from the Middle East, in which it's not just the Middle East. It's this civilization idea. Once civilization started, there became this idea that somehow that competition and scarcity was the norm, and it's just not. You know, and eventually we're going to get to a post civilization in which hierarchy is seen for what it is. There is hierarchy, like within a baboon troop or within a human civilization, but that's all embedded within this larger context of an ecosystem and a cooperative environment. And so, you know, the longest lasting cultures are those ones that have tapped into that, and they realize that, oh, we have to make peace with this larger abundance that's around us, interact with it, and then we can have our hierarchies inside of that because we need to structure our civilization, but it's bound to this larger world of abundance. And especially, it's just, we're in an era now where we control the ecosystems of the planet, and this is brand new territory. And so we'll see. We're all going to see. It's going to probably take another 100 or 200 years, but we're all going to see how folly it is to try to dominate through competition the systems of the earth. We're all going to be kicked in our place. People can debate it all they want. It's just, you know, I don't know if you feel like I do, but we're not winning that one. You know, we're just not. Again, somebody much smarter than I can probably figure out exactly how and why that's going to happen, but I know that's going to happen. Well, I'm all over the place as usual, but to me it all connects. It all makes sense. Hopefully to you, some of it makes sense. I'm going to be amazed if anybody listens all the way to the end. But if you do, thanks for listening. Thanks for your attention. I hope this has been helpful. You know, and again, if you take away one thing, it's just trick yourself. I don't want to say trick yourself. Just the moment that you have that thought, I don't have enough time. This isn't going to make a difference. I don't have the energy. It's too hard. All you got to do is one super tiny thing. You just do one tiny thing in that moment. That's it. You just do one tiny thing, and then you just keep trying to repeat that process. Every time you have that thought, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And don't let overwhelm. Don't let it be like, oh, it's not enough. You gotta. That's the thought. Catch that thought. You're like, oh, there it is. I caught it. I'm catching. You're catching the demon. That's the demon that wants to destroy your life. The demon that is, in Stephen Pressfield's world, resistance. I like to call them demons because I'm much more into mythic and fantasy and sci-fi. So catch that demon. You take that demon and you slay that demon with that. You don't slay it. You sort of push it back a little bit when you do that one little action. And then it comes back and attacks you again. And you do that enough times, that demon gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then those actions become more and more and more and more and more. But it happens every time you're taking on a change. And I think as we age, probably the most important thing we can do is learn how to change, learn how to adapt. And the more that we enter this world that we're entering of rapid change like we've never seen, then you have to be even better at rapid adaptation. All right, hope that was helpful. Have a wonderful day.